Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge cycling podcast for Tour de Pologne Stage 5. Quite a unique finish. It's like Hatterdam. We have these World Tour races, 1 week races, which have different finishes, which produce very odd top 10s. Here with Benji, as always, and this show is supported by our show partner, Chochołów. The course 172 Ks, which I've just mentioned. There's a few, they call them Cat 1s. They're really like 3Ks, 4Ks, 5 to 6%. No dramas for some of the quicker men we have here, but enough to get rid of the likes of Bauhaus and co. And the finish, the last circuit is the important one. They do 3 ascents of the finish line, and it's just an uphill drag, uncategorized, but fight for position and draft is important, but still, I think it's the one Benji said the other day that Carapaz attacked a small group with Ackerman and Ewan in a couple of years ago.
Yeah, certainly. The typical finish where you need a bit of a long sprint because, it just fell flat uphill. So it keeps going. But I did, while watching this race, feel like the finish felt easier than the previous times I imagined it, because I swear I saw people just going from left to right trying to get to the finish in those sprints, but I must have been imagining it. But today we had a breakaway. We had a breakaway including Marcinski, the guy who won 2 Vuelta stages in 1 year and then pretty much did nothing of greatness since then. And eventually was in the breakaway with Ricard and other people. Eventually from that breakaway, Ricard was the only one left over with a good, I think it was very close to the finish line, to be honest. It was in that final circuit continuously Ineos pacing for the likes of Kwiatkowski, because he's won here before at this finish line. So obviously they want to get that Dubsky again. And they kept on pacing that and eventually caught everybody except for Ricard with about, I think, 5K to go. And that was when we go back up towards the finish line and we start going back up. And then, Ricard is going to start having trouble. And we saw some odd stuff happening in the final 5 kilometers when it comes to crashes. The first one happened with about 3K to go just after Ricard was caught. We had Girmay sitting in fourth wheel of the Wanty train, Intermarché. And it felt like he lost his balance because of a movement in the peloton, basically a washing machine effect, and moved into a rider and just fell over to the left. And I think it's his fault, right? Kind of?
Yeah, I think so. Lotto came up and squeezed him a little bit. Everyone's trying to get onto Ineos train. Then it's either Ana Rubio. I don't think it was him. I think it might have. Is Garcia Cortina here? Anyway, there's a Movistar rider who then comes to his left. There's then road furniture in the middle of the road, splitting the road in two. Girmay moves over. He's trying to lean on the Movistar rider to sort of push him off or create space to move up back onto his train. And there's not enough pressure there. The Movistar rider gives immediately and he just falls down and it causes a crash there. So that was unfortunate, although Intermarché still had riders to play with Rota or particularly Quentin Hermans. But yeah, shame there on a finish that suits him. But really, I think, as Benji said, he only has himself to blame. It's weird, as Benji said, it's slow, quote unquote, uphill drag. But it's a big group. A lot of people have been sitting on all day with Ineos taking up a lion's share of the work. We have multiple teams with actually 2 and 3 riders to lead out. We have FDJ with multiple riders for Stewart. And it's a big group, everyone fighting for position with a limited space. So, yeah, it got a little bit frayed and tense. And that's maybe why we saw these crashes, because it wasn't because there was some mad technical reason why there were these crashes happening. And we also saw disjointment. We saw Honoré parking himself on the Ineos train, but then the Ineos train, they had Dool, I think. They had Rowe doing a turn for about 10 minutes plus, maybe more. Then Dool. And then Dool was like, well, I can't lead out from 400 uphill, 500 uphill. And he's just looking around him. Honoré's on their wheel. And then he's like, oh no. And then Lotto Soudal, I think, started bringing it up for Oldani, who you mentioned yesterday, Benji, and kind of swamped. What did you see from Quickstep? Is it just Almeida out of position today? What was Honoré leading out for Almeida? I couldn't gather clearly what their plan was.
Yeah, I think positioning was the issue today. Almeida was too far back and Honoré was too far at the front to be near Almeida. So they weren't working together properly. They weren't together. And that caused them to be out of position to make something out of this. Honoré was, he's been riding in third wheel, fourth wheel, like you mentioned, the entire time. And at the end, he's at the front and he's like, okay, this is too early to go myself as well, just like Dool was. And in the meanwhile, we see Almeida at the back of the group and trying to get past people. But the thing about the sprint is it's going so slow that it's so bulked across the entire road. And that's when those crashes started happening. Lotto Soudal made that move that you mentioned. They came to the front with Oldani in second wheel. I think Tosh van der Sande was pacing out Oldani. And that move by Lotto Soudal caused a Bora rider just in the wheel of Oldani to have to deviate to the right, and he just crashed. He just fell over into the barrier. The barrier held this time around, well, he was down. And at that same exact moment, like 5 seconds later or something, on the opposite side of the road, we have a Movistar rider who has to evade a back wheel, and because of that, just falls over to the left and takes like 3-4 riders with him. A Bahrain rider hits his head pretty hard on the barrier, so let's hope he didn't have too many consequences of that. But the sprint was on. Lotto Soudal was leading it out, and Oldani was sitting feastily in second wheel.
Everyone seems to have underestimated this finish from what I could see and how difficult it was. All the top favourites jumped too early. Honoré, Almeida, Ulissi, even Decker, Oldani, Mohoric, not as bad as the other day where he let Almeida out. He's almost done that a couple of times. And it was on the barriers. If you go and watch this overhead watch last 500 metres and you're watching for the DSM rider, fifth wheel, it's like 60 metres to go. He's fifth wheel. He's so far back, sitting in the saddle, and it's the seated sprint specialist, Nicky Assant. You know I love him. That was that Giro. Oh, no, the Vuelta seated sprint he won from a break is a personal favourite in 2019. He's won a Giro stage as well. He's got 5 World Tour level wins, and he adds another today. The only man who was just capable of continuing to sprint. He obviously can just sprint for like 40, 50 seconds. Is he part of the Case Bowl lead-out train, Benji? Because on paper, Nicky Assant's got to be like one of the best lead-out men, one would think, with his seated, smooth sprint. And that's why he can't win pure bunch sprints. But in one uphill drag like this, big guy, he pips Mohoric to the line, who comes second again, taking another 6 bonus seconds. Oldani third, Almeida fourth, Ulissi fifth, Quinten Herman sixth, Decker seventh, Stewart eighth, Vendrame ninth, Honoré 10th, Kwiatkowski, despite all that work from Ineos, coming outside the top 10, which is a little bit surprising. So maybe a couple of question marks from, say, Quickstep are playing with house money at the moment with 2 wins already, and Almeida in the GC, but 2 guys in the top 10, and also Enkhorn and Decker, 7th and 14th, who was leading out who, because one of them was missing a lead out. Maybe it was a little bit too hard, but yeah, just a classic weird Tour of Poland finish with a weird top 10 as well, Benji, like Decker in there, but also like Diego Ulissi, and then climbers, just a strange finish.
Yeah, I said yesterday that I expected Mohoric to do well on this type of finish because this allows for a longer sprint, and he will need that longer sprint today, and it worked out perfectly for him. Just came short a tiny bit. And it was kind of fun because, like, in the last 5 meters, I had no clue who was winning this race. And that's always kind of enjoyable. Even like the 20 seconds after the finish, I was like, I have no clue who won that race. And then they were like, it's Arndt. Okay, it's Arndt. And Almeida once again 12th after a bad position. That's actually pretty good. The bad position might have helped him to launch at the right time. But then again, I think if he was closer towards the front, he would have spent less energy and he would have been better off. But then again, he could have been able to launch too early then. But all in all, I think David Decker is the one in that top 10 that surprises me the most to be here. I didn't anticipate him being able to compete with these people on an uphill sprint like this. I saw him more as a guy that can get over cobbles and can sprint, but I didn't anticipate it as he can also, get over the hills like this. And I was expecting Pascal Enkhorn to be the man for them, but they switched that around today, and it seems like, I don't know if it was a good choice or not. I can't tell you.
David Decker, also known as, from his under-23 junior days, seated sprint specialist. Even at UAE, we saw that. So maybe being a seated, like in a sprint in the saddle, and being able to generate power in that fashion was helpful. Probably not. I mean, I'm sure if Caleb Ewan was in the wheel here at the end, he could have
He'd be sprinting on his saddle, mate.
he probably would have sprinted out of the saddle. But yeah, what's interesting now is Mohoric picks up another, all those bonus seconds that I mentioned. He is 2 seconds behind Almeida.
Mate, there's a time trial coming. He's fucked.
You reckon, mate? It's Bahrain. That's why I wanted to bring it up. It's 2 seconds. Almeida on paper is going to absolutely smoke him tomorrow in a 17K Rolly TT from Katowice to Katowice. 6th stage. There's another stage afterwards, stage 7, which is looks like a bunch of sprint stage. So really, the GC should be decided tomorrow, unless Morris picks up bonus
Where's
seconds.
Tiberi in GC? He's gone for me.
He's probably lost a lot.
I
A
was
fair few
looking
people
at
got
him,
caught
mate.
behind that crash.
Yeah, probably. Let's hope he's not.
Was the 3 kilometer
In
rule
trouble.
applied today?
I'd have no clue. I can't tell you.
Yeah, we're
at
not
all.
that professional. Okay, so you're saying nailed on Almeida keeps the leader's jersey tomorrow ahead of Morris.
Yeah.
Yep, I think so too. I mean, I don't really see an upset.
Anyone else here that could do well in the time trial? Like Kwiatkowski will probably set a decent time, I expect, but Bodnar at home, so you never know. It's too hilly, right?
I've been calling Bodnar for third week Grand Tour GTs like the Vuelta for a while. He's not looked
Jos
good.
van Emden is going to resurrect himself.
Yeah, actually, who should we go for the stage win? I'm looking at the start list.
Almeida,
yeah,
that's who I've got personally.
He should be taking it. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he can. And then there'll be 3 stage wins and a 4th assuming he takes the GC. So a pretty good return for the young lad. But yeah, that was
Degenkolb was at this race. I didn't even know that.
Is he still?
He's still 5 years ago. Degenkolb would wash away a finish like this. Vuelta style.
Yeah, I heard about the Degenkolb thing to DSM. Like maybe he's going there more as a mentor role. Maybe so maybe took less money. I don't know because he's on a 3-year deal there.
As a bodyguard to keep the riders in.
Maybe, yeah, that's a whole other podcast in itself. Talking about those Wielerflits interviews. Go and check them out, the Wielerflits interviews with DSM management, which are pretty humorous and a bit sad, to be honest, because you see Van Wilder, 20 years old, on Instagram today. He posted a tweet on Instagram, being like he's devastated not to be taken to the Vuelta. And I will say a quick word on it. It's one thing if you're Bora next year, and Benji and I spoke about this in the GC transfers pod. If Bora next year say, we're not taking Vlasov, Hindley and co to the tour, we're taking Bennett in a sprint train, not to say Vlasov's a bad rider, we think he could do well, but we just for sporting reasons need to have a sprint train around Bennett and it just doesn't fit sporting-wise. There's logic behind that, agree or disagree, it's at least rational. That's different to being like, how can you say that Van Wilder can't do the job that Martin Tuschfeld would do at this Vuelta?
They literally say in the interview, well, he's all right sporting-wise, but it's the cooperation part that is an issue. So either he's completely selfish, which I doubt.
Say that then. We asked you, you're going to have to pull for Roman Bardet at this Vuelta if you want to go, which fair again.
It would be a bit of a douchebag move, wouldn't it? But then again,
not really.
my point
Why
would
not?
be, I'd still blame the team if that was even the case, because I'm pretty sure if you're DSM, you can find a way in the center to send him to a race for working and send him to other opportunities that he's happy with.
True, EF. Are EF going to let Simon Carr or Caicedo or those other riders, Camargo, have a crack at winning a stage at this Vuelta? Most likely. That's how EF played at TDF. The DSM got a different structure. I still think, listen, if he said, I'm not working for Roman Bardet at all, well, say that. But just to say an ambiguous cooperation is what does that mean? That just sounds like the corporate buzzwords that they keep saying. Anyway, we'll go onto that was our recap of Tour de Pologne, and then we got sidetracked onto some Van Wilder DSM news.
Gossip.
Yeah, well, it's not really gossip. You literally put it on Instagram.
Yeah, exactly.